All right, welcome to Hit or Miss. Episode, whatever the heck the number is, I forget, but I typed it in there, so.
Too freaking many.
Too many. That's right. This is the last show ever because Foos says so. He doesn't like it. Anyways, Night Strike's not here, so I'm your one and only host, Smeggy42.
So it's the hit show.
Exactly. And I'm joined with some of my best friends in the whole wide world. So first, I'm going to introduce Foos. Foos Magoose.
You must be smoking something hard.
No, I'm just being weird.
You really
I don't share well with others, and I'm also not doing anything bad. I have been drinking Mountain Dew a lot, so I might be a little hyper.
All right. Well, I'm hopped up on drugs, and I drank a little bit of alcohol, so.
Oh, my.
Legal prescription drugs, so.
All right, and our next guest is Raphael.
Hi, everybody. I just sniffed this stuff. I don't know.
Good old rim oil.
Oh my God!
I'll actually clear the sinuses.
So apparently, this episode of Hit or Miss is brought to you by doing drugs. I didn't know that. I didn't know we endorsed that, but I guess we do. Okay, remember, kids, sniff rim oil and drink on prescription drugs and drink way too much Mountain Dew. And last but not least, we got Travis P111.
Hey, what's going on? This is Travis P11. You can check me out on YouTube, and I'm also on the Ordinary Average Guy Gun channel on gunchannels.com.
Oh, just 11. I thought it was 111.
No, just Travis P11. There might be 100 after me, but I'm just Travis P11.
But it goes to 11.
It does. This one goes louder.
Yeah, I really like Travis P10, but you're one better.
He beat me to it, so yeah, I take it to 11. I take it to 11 every time, man. I mean, you could take 10 and make it louder, but I take it to 11. So,
well, it's one more.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, it is. Anytime you need an extra kick, you take it to 11.
Exactly. So, I don't know. We don't really have a topic for tonight, which is nothing new or special. And if you've watched this show more than once, you know that and expect that.
It's the last show of 2016. Is anybody doing anything special gun-wise for the first?
Well, I'm not going to be home, so I don't get to enjoy the usual Detroit shooting guns into the air thing. Not that I've ever done it. I just like to listen to it and hide in my basement from the stuff coming back down. That is a thing here. I don't know if you all experience it, but you definitely, at midnight, you start hearing gunshots everywhere.
You hear them here as well, but they're not into the air. They're just like in a bank or something.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm just guessing that they're up into the air because that's what is, kind of stereotype known for celebratory gunfire is normally up into the air. But I don't know. I know that my buddy's cousin one time, we were actually hanging out at the cousin's house. He's a little kid, so it's, I guess, his aunt and uncle's house. But we were babysitting the kid, and there was a bunch, like more than normal. So their area must have like more people that do it. And we ended up spending the night there. And in the morning, we went outside, and there were rounds sitting like on the driveway. Like we saw fired bullets like in the driveway.
Like
fucking hit your windshield.
Or
projectiles. We found projectiles. It was crazy.
That is some crazy stuff.
So yeah, wear your helmets and stuff on New Year's, and your vests and all that stuff.
Dust off a plate carrier.
Hey, whatever works, man.
I got a hard hat.
That works too. That's a good idea.
Better than nothing. No, my plan is to go to bed early and wake up early because there's a shoot about 2.5 hours away on the 1st. I'm thinking about going to if I'm feeling good.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
So, the first year on the first day.
So
go ahead.
Oh, if you got something, go for it. I was just gonna.
Oh, I was gonna say on the 1st in Nebraska, they got the late deer firearm season that starts up January 1st. Maybe
Yeah,
think about taking the 30-30 out for that.
I was gonna say you set in your 30-30 for it, didn't you?
Yeah, it's ready to go, man. Thing is that I don't know why I didn't buy one of those 20 years ago. They're so much fun. Dang.
No, I kind of want a Rossi, or maybe not a Rossi, but a 357.
Oh
I think
yeah.
that'd be fun.
Yep.
Because it's still big enough and hard enough hitting to take down deer and stuff, but yeah, you can still plink with it.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at getting a little bit ago. Is I'm in the mood for lever action. For a while there, I was watching a lot of the old Rifleman, and I was really like, man, I want a lever action. And my dad has one in 30-30, so I was like, well, I want something different because if I want to shoot a 30-30, I can just shoot his. And yeah, I was thinking of getting it in 357 on the off chance that I ever do go hunting with it. We have a part of the state that it used to be shotguns only, but they've now changed it to you can also use straight walled cartridges. You just can't use any like necked rifle. So I was like, all right, I need to find something that will still be good enough for deer, but is straight walled.
Yeah, that would do the job.
Yeah, and honestly, and here's the other thing: it probably 98% of the time it will be used just for having fun and plinking. So that's why I didn't want to go with something different that maybe the ammo is a little bit more expensive.
Well, another one I was considering too is we have a Rossi circuit judge, and that shoots the 45 long Colt, and you can legally hunt with that here too. I just don't know ballistic wise, like what kind of range I could expect with that. I mean, you're shooting out of a carbine length barrel because the circuit judge, I don't know if you've ever seen it. That's the carbine version of the judge pistol. It's got the stock on it, and the handguard, and a much longer barrel. And I thought about maybe taking that out because it's got a 5-round capacity and it's perfectly legal to hunt with. But I don't, I might just do the 30-30 instead just for range, But I've never never hunted with a 45 long Colt before, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah, and 30-30, you can't go wrong with that. I mean, it's been used as a hunting rifle for quite some time.
Oh yeah. It is a lot of fun to take out, and I was shooting a pretty decent group just given the conditions, and I was happy with the results. So yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool.
I have to watch that video.
It's a little lengthy because I kept having to walk back and forth from where I was shooting to the target because it was 75 yards. I just did 2 groups. I was trying to sight it in at 100 yards, but when I first got the gun, I took the scope off and cleaned it and put the scope back on. So it was totally unzero. It was not zeroed at all. And I was trying to shoot at 100 rounds. I couldn't even see where I was hitting on the paper. I mean, I couldn't tell at all. So I said, I'll go over to the 75-yard range and bring it in a little bit. And I was able to dial it in. So I do want to take it out to 100, but I mean, I might have, I don't know if the bullet rises a couple inches at 100 yards. I mean, it should be more or less zeroed in for 100 yards. I mean, it's 75 yards. I don't know if I'll notice much of a difference, but
test out the range scope that you got from Harbor Freight in this.
Yeah, it worked. It worked just fine. I mean, granted, I was using a nice scope on top of the rifle, so I didn't use it as much as I thought I would, but I plan on using that. Like when I take the Rossi Circuit Judge to the range, that just has iron sights on it. So I'll actually use a little Harbor Freight scope with it. That thing's going to work good out to a couple 100 yards. It's clear enough and it's decent enough that you could use it if you just want something. I mean, you can get a Simmons at Walmart for $59. You might want to spend $20 more and get a little bit higher quality, but it's fine. It works fine. I mean, it held up okay, and I've taken it to the range a couple times, and it's almost something you could just afford to leave in your vehicle all the time. Yeah, it's got the nice sunshade on the front too, so that keeps the glare out. And I did a pretty good job. I mean, like I got it set up and used it, but I didn't really need it because then I was looking through the scope anyway on the gun that I was shooting with.
Yeah, I have to watch that video too.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it was amazing the differences in the ammo. I mean, it really, the PPU wouldn't cycle worth the darn through it. The Remington gave me the best group overall. The Winchester was second best. The Herders was 150 grain. It was shooting like 3 inches high. I just didn't want to recalibrate the scope just to shoot the Herder, so I left it as is because all my other ammo was 170 grain. Not to make this deer hunting talk, but you know, if you do take a 30-30 out, you might be surprised with what kind of accuracy you're going to get with it. You know.
Oh,
If you're mixing rounds when you go out, so you got two different boxes with, you might not realize that ballistically you're going to get a much different results.
Well, it's just like with any round, once you start messing with velocities and
Oh yeah,
weights of bullets, of course you're going to start jacking with points of impact.
and the
Right.
noses are a slight different shape too. They're not all exactly the same. I mean, some of them have slits in the bullets, and other ones didn't, and some of the noses were more blunt than others. So yeah,
Yep.
So that's like what I did with my 30-06. You know, I zeroed it in close enough. Like, okay, this is good enough. And then, you know, I went out and bought like one box of ammo of a bunch of different types, some different weights and different whatevers. And I figured I'm just gonna see what I get the best group with, and then I'll probably like bulk buy, you know, a bunch of that stuff, and then, you know, if I have to tweak my scope a little bit for that specific one, I will, and then just only use that for hunting. And I found I get the best groups out of the it's Hornady, like American white-tailed.
oh yeah, yeah.
And that stuff, I forget what the weight is on it, but it had the best groups. So
And then since you said you were going to get into reloading, you could always take and pull a bullet, see what bullet it actually has, or and then start loading for a round that is similar to the one you bought. So you could be planking with whatever and still have your own stuff for deer hunting.
right, that's true. Yeah, and that's the thing. Hey, you brought that up from what we've talked about previously, and that kind of goes back to the Christmas topic. I got some money for Christmas, and I think I'm going to buy a reloading setup, or at least part of a reloading setup with that, and just consider that my Christmas gift. So yeah, definitely once I get that going, I'm going to start reloading 30-06, you know, for accuracy. You know, try my hand at what I like to call mad scientist reloading. You know, you have the type that just are, you know, reloaders that just try and make thousands of rounds just to go plink with. And then you got the other type that makes, you know, 5 of one type of bullet, and then, you know, like they experiment with different grains and different lengths and blah, blah, whatever. And then you should go out and shoot those. Whichever group is the best, you start with that and you start tweaking a little bit more, go out and shoot those variations, pick the best one, blah, blah, blah. So I might start doing that and really dial in like a really good, oh yeah,
The scientific
dial in a really good load. And there's a tip from Dano's reloading tips. And originally he said the reloading tip is if you're going to buy brass, make sure it's deprimed, because he says depriming brass is a pain in the butt, which, okay, yeah, I agree. However, once we boiled it down a little bit more during the lobby chat, we realized the real tip should be don't buy a hand loader.
Well, I was with him. I told him, like, for what he was wanting to do, he was wanting to do very low volumes in a shit hits the fan situation where he had to go. And so I'm like, well, this isn't not optimal, but this is what, from what you're saying, this is what you're wanting.
Hey, Foos, you're getting a little crackly. You were a little bit more, or you were crackly earlier, but now you seem to be getting a little worse.
All right, I'll exit and come back in in a second. I'm playing a couple computer games as we're talking, so it's probably taking some bandwidth.
It sounds more like, you know, you're like mic connection issues. Kind of what happens in Night Strike. He has to jump in and out.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily roboting like you're lagging or anything. But anyway, so yes, that is Dano's reloading tip, which, like I said, was really boiled down to don't use a hand loader. Unless, I mean, I guess if you're just doing a little bit, then it's not that big of a deal. But I would say, at least if anything, just get a single stage. Like if you don't want to spend a bunch of money or something, like but at least get something that mounts to the bench. That would be my suggestion.
So you got a lot of money for Christmas?
Well, I didn't say a lot, but I got some money for Christmas.
What model and what type of thing that you're looking for to reload with?
Well, I'm really considering a turret press that has a auto index that you can either use or not use. Because in that way, if I want to do something where I don't want it to, move on to the next stage all by itself, I can just do that, and it's basically would be like a single stage press. Or you turn the auto indexing on. It's kind of like a progressive. It's just, to do the full cycle, you just have to pull the handle 4 or 5 times. But that way, you're only watching one thing at once. Where progressive, you're kind of watching, 5 different things at once. Like, did the powder actually drop? Did the bullet seat correctly? Did this and that? Like, did the primer pop out all the way when, like all that kind of stuff. So I think just for learning purposes, it'd be a little bit easier to use the turret. And I think Lee was suggested to me, which is what I've been looking at. But I'm still always open for suggestions.
Yeah, that's what I saw when I asked Lee.
But I want to switch gears here real quick. I posted a couple links in the chat on gun channels, which if anyone's listening on YouTube, I don't know because I don't really check YouTube when we're running. So go over to gun channels if you want to talk to us, because gun channels is awesome. And so that's my plug for that. Anyways, so the one link was something about like Europe getting tougher on gun control. And I just want to read a couple lines here because it's, you guys know, I can't stand when people say stupid things. And the European Union's agreed to ban sales of most dangerous semi-automatic firearms, blah blah blah, to make it much harder to legally buy other weapons in the EU. Yeah, great, whatever. Basically, people across EU will now have to go through medical checks before getting a license to buy firearms. Online sales will also be limited. So, I mean, I think that's just completely stupid to begin with. Again, you got to remember, they don't have Second Amendments and that kind of stuff. Oh, yeah. But, it's just, it's ridiculous of thinking, like, a medical examiner is going to, like, know that, like, if you're going to do something bad in the future. It's like they're really trying to get with, like, what are you going to do in the future? And if we can figure it out now, like, then we'll ban you from getting guns.
Minority Report.
Future crime.
Exactly. And this is the comment from Jean-Claude Juncker, head of Douchebag Anonymous. I don't know, whatever. He says, "We have fought hard for the ambitious deal that reduced the risk of school shootings, reduce the risk of shootings in schools, summer camps, or terrorist attacks with legally held firearms."
But the attacks that they've had over there in the EU have been with illegal firearms.
Or with trucks, right? I mean, those have been more costly than the gun stuff. And yes, Dano, I see you. I'm getting there. So yeah, that was the line that stood out to me when I was reading that. Was like, we want to reduce the risk of blah 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 with legally held firearms. It's like, does that mean you're okay with attacks happening with illegally held firearms? Like, you only like, as soon as you use a firearm for the attack, it's basically it's an illegal act. Like, who cares how you got the gun if it was legally or illegally? What you should be trying to stop is the attacks. And they're also going to make it easier to track legally bought firearms in order to prevent them from being resold on the black market. So that's probably a registration type thing. It doesn't really say what.
That's has to be a registration.
And then they're also doing. This is across the whole EU. We'll start sharing information about firearm sales to make sure that a person who fails checks in one member state cannot buy guns elsewhere in the European Union. So basically, if you can't buy a gun in one country, you can't buy a gun in any of the countries. And then it just goes on to blah, 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 blah. So that was it really on that.
So what percentage of the firearms that are purchased legally in Europe are actually sold and used illegally in crime? I'm just kind of curious. 1%? Less than 1%?
Yeah, I have no idea, but that'd be my guess is that it's very, very low.
So they're going to put this on 100% of the population. That makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
I mean, in our country, it only takes one guy to put an explosive in his shoes, and suddenly everybody has to take off their shoes at the airport forever.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that is annoying.
I had to take off my belt, and my belt is made out of plastic.
There are plastic
because-
explosives.
Well-
Maybe you have one of those belts.
Plastic.
It's because it shows up as a different density and stuff, the way their scanners work now. I mean, you got to take paper out of your pockets.
My pants were falling down. I
know.
I had money in my pocket. I took off my money because I kept it in my pocket. I didn't leave it on the shelf or on the little tub. I wasn't going to turn my back on my money.
You're supposed to.
Oh, I said, that's my money. I'm not putting it in the thing.
Then be prepared to have your pants come down.
I'm gonna say that's the thing. This is a little side note, but I travel a lot, and I've picked up a couple tips. One of them that I do, because especially if you're traveling with a carry-on bag, I guess this would be the only stipulation, and that's I travel with a laptop backpack, and there's like a zipper pocket in the front. So I take all the stuff out of my pockets and put it in the bag. So it's not sitting in the bin where someone could just grab it real easily. Like it's inside my backpack.
Mm-hmm.
And then also put your shoes first on the conveyor belt, then your bag, then your laptop. Because if they end up pulling your bag off to search it, and you put your shoes behind all your stuff, then you're sitting there in your socks, you're trying to wait for your shoes. And then when they're going like, hey, whose bag is this? We want to go check it. You either have to choose of walking over there in your socks to take care of the bag thing and get your shoes later, or say, oh, it's mine, but wait a minute, because I got to wait for my shoes. And then they get all crabby if you make them wait, let alone they're making you wait an extra 15 minutes. But if you make them wait 30 seconds, they get crabby. So get the shoes first so you can put them on. And then if your bag comes out, great. If it doesn't come out, go deal with that. But that's just a tip. Put all the stuff in your pockets just in the bag. Because then also when it does come right out, I grab the bag and walk out and around the corner. I don't put stuff in my pockets like in that main area where everyone is. I go find a little cubby hole around the corner, and then that's when I get all my stuff back.
I got a question for you world travelers here, or at least travelers in the U.S. The last time I took a flight that I had to take my shoes off, the two airports that I was at, neither one of them provided a place to sit down to put your shoes back on again. Is that fairly common that they don't offer a place to sit to put your shoes on?
There's usually some seating shortly after, but that's airport to airport.
I mean, I know the St. Louis airport has the thing. It's around the corner, but it's a whole like hallway with chairs lining one side. Detroit airport has one right there. I'm trying to think of something else. Yeah, pretty much most of the ones I've been to, they do have chairs like right there by the security area.
The Orlando terminals. I went through in Orlando. They're a ways away, but there's some seating up against the wall at the end of security after you go through.
Any of you guys happen to obviously it'd be a connecting flight, but go through O'Hare in the last year or two?
Anytime I have to fly, I get to pick my own, and I do not go through O'Hare or New York. I just don't do it because, let's say, I travel with my firearm. If I go there and a flight gets canceled or something, and I get my bags, I am now in possession of something in Illinois that I don't have a FOID card for.
Right.
So I do not fly through certain cities or states because of that.
Well, yeah, because there was a thing in New York that happened to a guy, right? Was
Yeah.
that he, he grabbed his bag and like went to the hotel or something, and then was going to come back the next morning to fly out, and he got, I'll say caught. It's not like, I don't think he was doing anything wrong, so it's not like he was really caught, but he got in trouble during that time because he had,
Absolutely.
whatever, a gun with more than 10 rounds or whatever it was that he wasn't allowed to have. And it's not even that he
Yep.
was carrying it or anything. It's like it was just in his bag, and he went to the hotel with it.
Right. Reminds me of I forget where G. Webb's got it from, but the article that he was reading or had read about how this proposal in Missouri, and Fuss, you're the one that reminds me of Missouri for other reasons, but in regards to how the proposal is that if retailers or any business puts up a sign of the no carry in Missouri, that then they are going to be legally responsible for the safety of the customers and people that come into their business. Now that has not passed. That's a proposal.
And that's that I'm glad you kind of brought that up, because I was furiously typing today during the Daily Show when you guys were talking about that.
So here's your opportunity.
Yeah, I know, and I'm trying to remember all my awesome gems that I thought of. But I personally am, what would I say? Like, I'm pro that. I like that idea because I think it puts it's a deterrent to stores that want to put up the sign. So it's encouraging them not to, whereas not necessarily like, forcing them to go either one way or the other. It's just a way of kind of encouraging them not to put up the sign. Because I think when stores measure the chances, pros and cons, the cheapest and easiest thing to do is just not put up that sign.
Right. I mean, I'm very rare that I'm ever in favor of more government regulations or actual formal laws, because they almost never come up with a regulation or a formal law that actually promotes freedom. But this is one of the few that I feel actually does. I mean,
right, and that's yeah. I'm kind of in that same boat. Although I also do agree with, I think G Web's the one that brought it up, where he's saying like basically the free market can solve this if none of us ever shop in a store that has a gun-free zone, and we tell them so. And that reminds me of a story. My buddy, he went to this jewelry store, and he was looking to buy an engagement ring for his girlfriend. And he had bought her jewelry from that store before. He liked it. It's a little local shop in his town. And this one time when he went in there, they had just added a no gun sign because the place had been robbed a week before. And so there we go. That's a goal. Anyway, sorry. So he basically went up to the dude and was like, "What the heck's up with this? I've been coming to you guys for the last couple of years, and you didn't have that before." And the clerk told him, "Well, we got robbed, and so the owner put that up." And he was like, "Dude, do you think that the person robbing you would have listened to that sign?" And the guy working was like, "Yeah, I think it's stupid. Of course they're not going to listen to that." I wish the guy wouldn't have put it up there, but the owner did it and he likes it. And so my buddy told me, he goes, "Listen, I was coming in here about to buy an engagement ring and spend thousands of dollars, but instead I'm going to another store. Like, I am not shopping here, and it's specifically because of that sign." And the guy is like, he goes, "So will you tell the owner or whatever?" And the guy said, "Well, I'll give him, I'll give you his email address, and you can tell him that yourself." And so my buddy did. He sent him a nice email, and very, polite and everything, but basically said, "You've lost out on quite a bit of business. And just so you, seriously, anyway, just so you know, I'm not planning, like, any other gift I ever get her for the rest of our marriage, I'm not buying from you. Like, you have lost my business because of this sign." So I don't know if the store ever took the sign down, but he did share his displeasure with the owner of the store.
I have a friend who's a jeweler, and I know he carries.
I would think most do,
It
but
makes
they still might not want their customers to. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if that store owner carried, because he's probably taking money out of there in and out, or getting shipments of jewelry or whatever. Like,
diamonds.
yeah, but that's the thing. There are some people that think, well, I'm okay, but I don't trust other people, so I'm going to put up this no gun sign.
Or the
And-
employees. The employees have to have something too to defend themselves.
Yeah, you would hope so.
Sometimes employees have to open up the store in the morning.
Yep, I know at
Close at night.
I have some friends that work in the retail business, and their store was broken into. It was after closing time, and no one was in there. But when they checked the security and stuff, it was like 10 minutes after closing. Now, luckily, they're the type of place that's like, okay, we're closed for business, kind of, count the cash register real quick for 5 minutes and lock the door. Like, they don't stick around late at night. But what if they wanted to do a little bit of inventory or something? If they would have been there 10 more minutes, they would have been there when the store got broken into. And these guys were, smashed the. All right, here we go. Coming back. Sorry, guys. I'm watching the Wings game, and it's going up and down for me. Anyways,
Of course, it's the Wings. They suck too much.
oh, screw you, dude. It's only 3-2. We're coming back. Anyways, it's after that happened, a couple of them started carrying, and like the store owner, that's kind of a mom and pop type store. They were one of those like, okay, I guess. Like it's not specifically allowed, but they decided not to specifically prohibit it. So the employees do. They're like, yeah, screw that, man. If I'm closing up the store, I'm gonna have it with me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, people have been doing that in the city of Chicago for many decades. Business owners, I'm referring to.
Oh yeah,
Carrying
definitely.
in their business, whether it's a bar owner or whether it's a restaurant, clothing, dry cleaners.
Yeah, but my uncle owns a business, and I remember back when Michigan was still like a May issue state. You used to have to go in front of a gun board and explain yourself why you wanted, a concealed carry permit. And the excuse of like, well, for self-defense, they didn't accept that. They were like, no, that's not good enough. Like, why specifically do you need it? And so anyways, but he had one back in the day when not many people had one, because he's like, listen, I own a store. I go to the bank like every night and drop off my deposit, and people know my timing and all this stuff. So, and he was able to get one. Then when it went to shall issue, which we are now, as long as you're not prohibited from having one, you apply for it and they give it to you. You don't have to explain yourself or anything, which is awesome.
What I find incredibly interesting is in states that have may issue, is that your life is not considered a reasonable reason to give you a concealed carry permit. Yet cash is cash, which can be replaced, which is insured, is a good reason. But your life, which cannot be replaced, is not.
Well, I think their rationale, and honestly, it's one of those things that I don't know how to say. But anyway, so
shoot your eye out, kid.
Well, the idea here is that yes, your life is important and stuff, but we do live in a fairly safe society where if you're just a regular person happen to be walking down the street, the chances of your life being in danger is pretty small. Now, if you have a target on your back because you have the money, the chances on your life is still small, but probably a little bit higher than if you're just like a poor college student. You know what I mean? Like, people aren't going to risk it for $20, but they might risk it for a couple thousand. And definitely, people that are willing to mug someone, you cannot assume that they're not willing to kill you, because it's just as easy to not leave witnesses and kill you and then take your money than it is to take your money and run away. So some of the people that are like, well, I would never use force to defend property or defend money or whatever, I'll just give it to them and they'll be fine. You don't know what their intentions are. And I would say that you have all the right to believe that they intend to do you harm, whether you comply or not.
Yeah.
It's a good
If
point.
somebody takes a gun out and sticks it at somebody, they have already decided that that person is possible to be killed. They've already raised the stakes. If a policeman is behind them or somewhere and shoots them,
Right. Or if even you're able to, distract and deflect their attack a little bit and then draw your own firearm and shoot them, like
it's not an
that is perfectly
escalation.
reasonable.
It's not an escalation. It's already there.
Right. Although that being said, I have seen quite a bit of stuff. What the heck's that YouTube channel called? I forget now. The guy actually does I really like his videos. I should try and figure it out. But anyways, he talks about like the 5Ds or whatever, which is like distract, deflect, distance, disarm. I forget. So there's another one. But that's one of the things he always says is like, don't draw your gun on a drawn gun. Like you have to wait for your opportunity. Because
That's true.
You're going to lose that race every time. But
Unless they're distracted, then the OODA loop comes in.
Well,
but
exactly.
you can't, if it's just a one-on-one, he's pointing at you, with finger on the trigger, you go for a gun, you're not going to win that fight.
Exactly. And that's his YouTube channel is all about showing, security footage of, either self-defense things gone right and sometimes gone wrong and sometimes gone okay. Like, no, the guy didn't die or anything, but he could have done things better or whatever. And he points out the good stuff and the bad stuff. And, I really like that channel. I know someone on Gun Channels turned me on to it, and I mention it all the time, and I always forget what it is.
I was watching it. I know who it is, I think. I was watching one where a guy gets out of his car and somebody shoots him. Somebody shoots a guy in a bicycle behind him, and he runs out of cover, and they shoot him. And he went all through the whole situation. How stepping out of the car was a bad idea.
So Ralph, you said you know
it's concealment. It's not cover, but I'd rather not be seen than be out in the middle of running somewhere.
So Ralph, what's the name of the channel then?
I got it right here.
Ralph said he thought he knew.
I think he just meant he knew of the channel. It's called Active Self-Protection.
Yeah, that's it.
And that's what I was gonna say when Fusid mentioned that, the whole pulling the gun on someone who has it drawn, unless there's a distraction or whatever. That's exactly what he talks about. Is like you almost kind of like fake compliance until you get your opportunity, and if you can get them distracted, then you make your, basically once you decide to make your counterattack, and it might not even be with a weapon. There's a lot of stuff where, guys throw 2 liters at the guy or something, like just something
Anything.
to get them off their, yeah.
What was that YouTube channel again?
Active Self-Protection.
All right.
It's pretty cool. It comes out with a video. I don't know if it's every day or every other day or something. It's pretty regular.
It almost sounds like a contraceptive method.
And that's I really like
might
it.
be.
Like I said, sometimes it's a bad example of self-protection. Like, hey, this is totally not the right thing. You made a mistake here, you made a mistake there, blah blah blah. And I think you can learn from other people's mistakes. And the other thing too, a lot of times he doesn't necessarily judge the people. He's not showing it to like make fun of them, like, haha, look at these people, they suck at it or whatever. He's just saying like this. It can happen in a split second, like you're making these decisions, and if you haven't thought about it ahead of time, then you know, when it does happen to you, you're going to be sitting there like a deer and caught in the headlights.
Yeah.
And that's,
So-
I think the scenario, you know, like scenario training or whatever is great because yes, you don't know like what's going to happen. At least if you have thought about it before, there might be some aspects of it that you're like, your brain just goes into autopilot. Like, oh yeah, I think I know what to do at this part.
Yeah, that looks like I haven't watched their videos yet, but it certainly looks like a very promising YouTube channel. I was just perusing some of the titles and snapshots of what they had, and yeah, that's, you know, depending on how well it's done, and I'm going to assume until I see one that it's done well off of what you've said, that's the sort of thing that, yeah, you know, you may go to training to learn how to do some of the mechanical things well, but what you also need to do is some of the psychological things well, some of the, I'll call it pre-planning. And granted, nobody's going to be able to offer a cookie cutter solution to a million different situations, but just in broad strokes, they're going to have a lot of common similarities.
Right, exactly. And that's, I would think of them more as, you know, when you do a pre-planning kind of thing, you're almost doing like self-defense modules. Like, okay, I've thought about what happens if, you know, a dude jumps into my car, or I've thought about what happens if this happens, or I've thought about this, and then whatever happens might be, you know, one or two things that you've thought about separate that are happening at the same time, and you can kind of just put the two things together and say, okay, this is my plan. And that's the thing, you got to do it in a split second. Like when you choose to act, you have to act. Hesitate, that's the one common theme. Hesitation ends up normally bad.
Right, and as you and Foose had I thought very clearly and succinctly stated, you can never outdraw a gun that's already drawn on you. I don't care how fast you are at the range.
I was thinking of these things a couple of nights ago when I wasn't sleeping. And one of the things I thought, what would happen if somebody got a truck like they did in like Berlin and Paris? What would I do?
Run.
Yeah, I'd run. I don't know if I can. Nobody can shoot
some types
one
of
of those
attack.
cars.
The best defense is your feet, always.
Yep.
Yeah, you know, I forget, someone had brought that up in, I don't remember if it was a lobby or an actual chat or something, but they brought up the idea of like, you know, if you were there and this car or truck is, you know, plowing through some people, you know, do you try and shoot the driver? And I remember being real, I don't know, man. I think it's very situational based, because here's the thing, you might think it's like an attack or something, but I mean, what if it's just, you know, someone's foot slipped off the brake and hit the gas instead?
Or the guy
And
went into a
it looks
diabetic
like they're
coma.
going to run over a bunch of people, but turns out they slam on the brakes and yeah, they hit two people or something, but it really was just an accident. And now you've shot that person, you know, and it's like, I don't know. I don't know if, I mean, maybe you're covered from the legal point of view, because you might be able to prove that a reasonable and prudent person would have been in fear for their life. And, you know, you didn't know what was happening. So maybe legally you still would be covered. But I don't know if you know, like, I don't know if morally is the right word, but like, you know what I mean? Like outside of the court of law, I still don't think if that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, we've had truck drivers in our state that have green truck drivers that have had heart attacks. And again, you know, somebody mentioned diabetic attacks. And had taken it into other cars on the interstate or taken it off the road, their semis. So, I mean, it can happen. You know, what do you do? It's not necessarily a terrorist attack.
I'd say at least every other year, sometimes it's once a year, between Chicago and the greater Chicago area, it's either an elderly citizen, somebody with a medical issue, or some sort of mechanical difficulty with the vehicle ends up plowing into a crowd of strangers. Whether it's at the farmer's food mart or whether it's at the O'Hare drop-off area, or whether it's through a marching area.
Right, and so that was one of the
There
things
is
that I
or a crime. It's to do with an elderly, confused person, somebody who's medically having an issue, or there's something mechanically wrong with the vehicle.
right, and so I had put the thing on there, and that's again not knowing the exact scenario. I would like to think that there'd be enough subconscious clues or something. And one of my examples, like if it appears as if they're actually steering into people, then that kind of proves intent. And it could just be a coincidence that when someone jumped left, they also jerked the wheel to the left. And when someone jumped right, they jerked the wheel back to the right. But that's now you're stretching a little bit more. So I think if I saw that and I had the opportunity to at least try and take the threat out and also still be able to get out of the way, if I had enough time to do both, then that's probably what I'd do. If I had to choose between one or the other, I think I'm going to jump out of the way first.
Yes, save yourself first.
So,
Yeah.
but I think it came down to you just kind of maybe there'd be some subconscious clues that you'd pick up on where it would really feel like an attack, or it would appear like an attack versus an accident. And I don't know how to quantify that exactly.
Yeah,
Something
and
a
if
truck
you
like the one.
quantify it to us. How would you quantify it to a jury? I'm not trying to put your point down. I'm just trying to say.
Well, that's true, and that maybe
We're not the
Yeah, I
jury,
don't-
but
right. No, exactly, and that's
you're pretty relaxed in here. You're clear thinking, and yet when you're up on that stand, you're very stressed. You got all these people staring at you, from the jury members to the defense to the prosecution to the judge. Anybody in the gallery.
right. Well, and that's so again, maybe the things that you saw when you went back over it, it would become clear. But
Also become clear that you were wrong.
well, that's true, and that was the other thing is maybe that's the same. Like you had mentioned, the elderly. I've heard of I don't know of hitting people, but I know of some local stories where they were pulling up to a restaurant and they slammed on the gas and hit the side of the building instead of hitting the brake, that kind of stuff. So it maybe as you're seeing a car coming towards you, if I saw it was an old person, I might not shoot them. Not that old people can't be terrorists, but yeah, I'd probably err on the side of just getting out of the way and
It's better
hoping
to
that they
get out of the
stop.
way, I think, because if you shoot them, they might go for the gas even far faster, right?
Yeah, they could slump over onto it. Yeah.
You can't stop a car because it has all that stuff in there. It's not going to stop. You might hit the radiator, but it's just going to go hot and it'll keep on going. You can't shoot the tires out because they still roll.
Well, shooting the radiator, that ain't going to do anything because if they're already that close, that motor's not going to feel a dang difference.
Oh yeah, you can run without a radiator for quite a while.
I think that the best thing to do is to run away.
In almost any defensive situation, that'd be correct.
And then I thought of
Can't run, fight.
the other day. I thought, what would happen if somebody attacked the local Walmart and I was in the hunting area, hunting section? Would I pick up a gun? Would I tell the guy?
Everything's locked.
They're locked, so I would have to get one of
Grab a
those,
hatchet.
an employee.
Actually, they store them with the bolts out of them at one of the stores that I've gone to. They actually don't keep the bolts in the guns in the display case. Well, on the bolt actions. I don't know about the shotguns or any other ones, but yeah.
Yeah, and something like that. I mean, that's why you get a concealed carry permit, so you have a working gun at the ready.
And then I hide and get the guy when he's not looking.
Man, I'd say get out of there.
Yeah, I'm thinking get
Yeah.
you and the ones you care about out of there and as far away from there as possible.
I mean, I know you want to help those around you and try to on the way out, but man, you know, I was watching that active protection channel, and they were showing the guy that got shot in the Walmart that got killed by the two people. What was that, last summer or whatever? And they showed the lady come up behind him and pop him when he was focusing on the other guy. You know, he didn't know there was another person with that main assailant, and the girlfriend or whatever, the guy that was in there shooting, she came up behind him and killed him, and he was a concealed carrier. So I mean, you
Yeah,
don't
there was
know.
one of the
you don't
He
know how
hit
many
the bad guy though, didn't he?
I don't know
Well,
if
he
he
got one
ever
of them,
did it.
not both.
Yeah, but then the girlfriend
Yeah,
shot
yeah.
and killed him.
Yeah, she
Right.
came up behind him and he didn't know.
So yeah, I mean, you have the world's greatest intention, but realistically, to protect you and your own, you should only expect yourself to perform to your level of training. Unless you've been trained to assault.
So level of mastery, not just training.
The training that you've mastered. I mean, unless you've been trained to assault a building, clear a building, don't go in and try to clear a building. Nice dog.
Cat.
I mean, I've not been trained to clear a building. I would not go in and even attempt to. Now, if I happen to cross a bad guy on my way trying to get out, yes, I would engage. That's different. I'm trying to get out.
And I think with that whole scenario, that one specifically, I think he did the best he could with the situation he had, because I'm not sure what the alternative was. Like if he would have been able to run away anyway, she was still like right around that corner, so he might have ran into her anyways and still got shot. So at least he took one of them out. So it's a lot easier, I guess, to Monday morning quarterback and look back on it after the fact and be like, oh, he should have done this, should have done that. And again, I don't think it's like we're putting him down for not being perfect. It's just there may be some lessons learned that we can use ourselves for if the situation ever happens.
Oh, he was very courageous, and should be noted as being courageous, and that was one of his qualities that unfortunately was his undoing, but it certainly is a positive quality.
Yeah, and I do still think that is an example of a concealed carry holder stopping or at least minimizing a mass shooting. Because I mean, those people had already killed a bunch of people beforehand at a different place.
Right.
But if he wasn't there, if that person just didn't exist, I mean, they might have got 50 more people in that store instead of however many they did. So when everyone says guns are never used to stop mass shootings, it's like, that's completely false. We all know that's false. Because one of the things is, yeah, they have been used to, it might still be a mass shooting, but it's not as bad of one. And then the other ones where it's like, it's guns, they don't claim them as stopping mass shootings because the situation stopped after they just shot one person. So it's like, that very well could have been a mass shooting, but because they only got one person first, it's not classified as a mass shooting. And Masada Ayub actually has a pretty good article in one of the, I think it was Handgunner, one of the magazines. And he went through a bunch of those cases exactly where someone had shot one or two people, got stopped by a concealed carry holder, and then, under further investigation, that person had whatever, 5 magazines on them and, had written a manifesto about how, the world's treating them wrong and blah, blah, blah. It's like, that person had intent to doing a lot more damage and they didn't. So that's a perfect example of an actual like mass shooting stopped that it just turned into like a regular shooting, which is still bad, but it's not as bad as it could have been.
As a concealed carry holder, permit holder, I mean, you have to ask yourself, there's a reason why police don't storm a building as a single individual. There's a reason for that. They storm in groups. They don't storm as a single individual. If one arrives on the scene, they wait for another. Maybe several others, depending on what the situation is. But they don't go in alone.
A lot to think about.
but you also have to think, there's a lot of things about being concealed carrier and stuff like that. But you also have to think this is one of the safest places, the safest times to ever live. So don't be
definitely,
paranoid. Don't be paranoid. Be cautious.
Yeah, I think that's a statement that can't be reiterated enough, is that violence and everything as a whole has been steadily going down over the past 20 years, while gun ownership and the number of guns and everything has been going up. So that's one of my pet peeves, the more guns, more crime. And I won't go as far as John Lott in saying that crimes are going down because of more guns, but I will take a more neutral road and say guns have been going up, crime's been going down, therefore it's not more guns, more crime. Like, that's just completely false.
Absolutely.
Now, whether it's the cause or not, I think crime is a very complicated issue, and you can't just ever point to one thing. There are multiple things that affect it.
Very true.
And I'm glad it's going down. Whatever we're doing, it's working. But obviously, gun control laws is not one of the contributing factors. Oh. All right. Well, I'm going to pop this other link here. We didn't get to talking about it. I'm going to put this in the side chat for you guys and over on Gun Channels. I'm about to wrap this up here. We've been going on for an hour. I think we did pretty good. I think it's a hit. It's an article from Ammo Land, and basically it's 2016 in review, and I believe they just point out like the positive things, like open carry passed in Missouri, gun ownership's growing, gun control cities are the most violent cities, but it's like all these different things. Oh, senator in California arrested. Yeah, that was that Senator Yee, the dude who's like super anti-gun, but he was selling full autos to the mob or whatever, or the Asian mafia, whatever you call that. West Virginia passed constitutional carry, blah, blah, blah. It goes down all the way through the year. It's broken up by month. Interesting read. I think that's a really good summary of what has happened so far in gun-related things this year.
Do you guys normally try to keep this to a 1 hour max?
Yeah, sometimes we go over and stuff, but I'm feeling that we've had a good show, so I'm gonna start wrapping it up.
I just got a quick question, Foosh, before you shut it down. In Missouri, do you happen to know offhand if they have what's called home rule, where let's say a city over a certain size can decide to do their own thing in regards to like open carry?
No.
So like Ferguson is an example. If they wanted to start open carrying, they could indeed open carry in Ferguson. Correct? Or
well, open carry is legal in Arkansas and Missouri.
I couldn't catch you.
It's actually legal in Missouri, open carry.
Right. Yeah, open carry is legal in Missouri. Therefore, there can't be a city that bans open carry.
Now, is it
they have to follow the state.
Open carry or open carry with a permit?
Constitutional.
Okay.
In fact, they actually, I believe, this kind of going back, but yeah, I believe Missouri passed
this year
constitutional concealed carry this year.
Yeah, yes, they did.
So, is that? I guess are both of those in effect right now? So you don't need a permit to either conceal or open.
I don't know when the concealed carry goes into effect.
But you're right. But it was passed, and I believe the guy tried to veto it, and they had enough votes to override the veto.
That's correct.
Was that particular governor? Was that a governor who had a history of being less than freedom?
Yes. Missouri takes effect January 1, 2017.
Okay. So this coming year might be telling you know, and I'm not thinking in bad terms, I'm thinking possibly in good terms. It's kind of like as an example in Illinois, we had to prove to the city of Chicago that, you know, once again, and granted, you guys have all heard it, but with concealed carry, it was not going to turn into the wild, wild west in downtown Chicago because it already was the wild, wild west. And nothing to do with concealed carry. Everything to do with criminals are going to do exactly what criminals do. But I digress.
Now, they do have something in Missouri that if there's, I think, more than 5,000 people that could attend or be in a place at one time, that they can say no firearms, like, you know, stadiums and stuff like that.
Okay, so basically professional sporting events, large conventions.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's up to them to say whether it is, you know, illegal, not illegal, but prohibited.
Right.
Very interesting. Yep, it should be good to see another state with constitutional carry and another state not going crazy. And hopefully all the other states will be like, oh, yeah, it's worked for all these other ones, so we're going to try it too. So with that, though, yeah, I think we're going to wrap it up. If you guys want to plug something real quick and say goodbye, I'm going to plug real quick. Go thumbs up this video. All you gun channels people, just pop over to YouTube real quick and give me a little thumb. It's all good.
You want a little thumb?
Yep. I just want a little thumb on my YouTube.
And
Pointing this way.
I'm going to remind everybody that to watch Monday through Friday, the Daily Gun Show. It starts at approximately 1 p.m. Eastern. And I think that makes it what?
No, 3 p.m. Eastern.
3 p.m. Eastern? Yeah, you're right. 3 p.m. Eastern. And
like noon Western.
Noon Pacific.
Yeah.
So as well as check out the early watch with Jimmy, James, and Tony from Illinois. They start at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific in the morning, and they run for 6 hours Monday through Friday. It's amazing. I don't know how they can keep that going.
Caffeine.
That long, 5 days in a row. It amazes me just doing an hour and a half every day, trying to do, with basically 4 guys,
Right.
and then basically having 2 plus some hosts, so some guests.
Yeah, I was gonna say sometimes people jump in, and also they're really active with the text chat over on gun channels. So there we go, tied it up. Anyways, yeah, they're very active in reading the text chat, so I think that helps too, because a lot of people, I'm included, listen to it while they're at work, so they can't necessarily jump in, but they might be able to like type something real quick. So that
Right.
kind of helps the conversation going, where it's still like a conversation between 5 or 6 people. It's just some of them aren't actually talking; they're just typing.
Yep.
So, how about the rest of you guys? Got any other plugs before I hit the button?
Just check out my channel on YouTube, Travis P11, and the Ordinary Average Guy Gun channel over on gunchannels.com.
So that's Travis
stuff,
P 111111111111, right?
Nah, just Travis P11.
Copying off of Iraq Vet 8888888888888.
Hey, no, it's Travis P 111.
Nope, just
So
Travis
one.
P
I do
111
have
minus 1.
I do have a Taurus PT 111, but that was no inspiration for the channel. It's just what YouTube assigned to me. They were 10 ahead of me, so
Travis, I got a quick question for you. I've not seen your videos. What angle or focus do you tend to take in your channel?
I'm. What do you mean? Like what? Like what kind of?
What kind of videos do you make?
Oh, anything from firearms reviews, some range testing, some tabletop reviews. I do some stuff with my Jeep, just bits and pieces of gear. I like to jump on and do some kind of like late breaking news videos where there might be a new pistol announced, and I'll talk about that. Like I did mention the M&P 2.0 that's going to be coming out soon. I brought that up in a video the other day. So a little bit of everything, just whatever hits me. Like I'm starting to do more accuracy testing now because I've got a bunch of guns in the vault that I've talked about on tabletops, but haven't actually taken to the range on camera. So I've been doing more of those lately too. Which, yeah, I mean, I love doing those because it kind of shows how the gun's going to perform just by an amateur shooter using not the best conditions, you know, like what kind of accuracy you can expect.
Right.
Yeah. So I just do a little bit of everything. I got the cool parody of the Nerf Pua rifle. You got to check that one out.
I was just gonna say that's an instant classic.
And
I
the
love
thing
it. I love
is,
it. Yeah.
I almost bought one of those Nerf Puas thinking of how good yours was. I almost bought one.
It's unstoppable, man. Mice, shrews, crickets, gerbil. I mean, you can. Yeah, it's a very high.
I mean, it
power.
doesn't kill any of those things. Like it probably wouldn't even squish a cricket, but
No. It's just it's all fun. It's all fun. Yep, Cabela's has the new Mod 2 version of that came out with a muzzle brake on it and the sporter stock. So they actually do. They really did come out with a new one. I don't think I'm going to review it, but yeah. No, I just do a lot of reviews, just kind of whatever's on my mind, I guess. It's all gun related for the most part.
All right, let me ask you one detailed question then, since you perked my interest. Could you give me a 2-sentence summary of the M&P 2.0 tabletop?
Yeah, the M&P 2.0. Okay, it was leaked on Academy Sports' website. They put up a picture, they put up the price, they mentioned the details, and then they quickly pulled it down. It has an improved trigger. It has, I believe, an extra backstrap that's going to come with it versus what you already get, and it has a different finish, more aggressive stippling, and I believe some different serrations on the front. From what I've seen in the photo and what was mentioned in the details,
So it's not actually out. It was just leaked online. That's what he did his review on. Was what was on.
yeah. It was,
it wasn't a tabletop.
They weren't supposed to put that up yet.
It was an article review. Now, was there any leaning as far as, is this going to, I assume this obviously starts at the combat or duty size. Is this going to go all the way down to the shield?
No, all that they leaked was the full size 9 and 40, and there was 2 different barrel lengths, I think, for each model. There was the standard that we're used to, and a little bit longer extended barrel. From what I've seen in the pictures, yeah.
Excellent, thanks.
Yep. And they're showing a retail of $529 on that.
And again, if you look at that, that's still very price competitive with Glock. So, especially if the changes they made weren't just changes, but actually improvements. Which is yet to I mean, until you get your hands on the gun, and then until you get the gun to the range, you really don't know.
Yep. Yeah, that one was just I found an article that somebody had mentioned, and I wanted to put a video up about it because there were no videos up about it at that time.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and call it. I'm going into depression mode. It's 4-3 now.
Okay.
So thanks everyone for showing up. Thanks everyone for listening. Thanks everyone for giving me a thumb. I'm assuming you did it. I haven't looked, but
I gave you the finger. I mean the thumb.
I'll take whatever tells YouTube to post my video to more people. I don't care what it is. A finger, a thumb, a hand, a fist. Whatever. I don't care. So, all right. Again, thanks for everyone listening and watching and whatnot. This has been Hit or Miss.
Good night.